Kazeem Oloto, known among his peers by the nickname Rescue, was a remarkably intelligent and soft-spoken student at the Federal Polytechnic Offa. On the surface, he carried himself with calmness and humility. He was the kind of student who rarely raised his voice, who smiled politely when spoken to, and who many lecturers saw as a promising young man with a bright future ahead. But beneath that quiet and composed exterior, there was a side of him that few understood deeply, a side tied closely to a group he was heavily involved in. Among his fellow students and those familiar with campus affairs, Kazeem was rumored to be the leader of a powerful student organization known for its strict code of loyalty and brotherhood, the Buccaneers Confraternity. Within this group, the leader of any local unit or deck was referred to with a title of high respect, the Big Guy. And Kazeem, according to multiple sources, held that exact position. The nickname Rescue wasn't just a casual tag picked up in school. It was drawn from a more elaborate title given to him by his confraternity brothers, Rescue the Terror. While the name might sound intimidating, those close to him say it symbolized someone who could intervene and take control of any situation, no matter how difficult or intense. Over time, the full title was shortened, and soon, everyone began calling him simply Rescue. Despite the seriousness of the title and his rumored position, Kazeem was not someone who misused power or went around commanding attention. He was never the loudest in the room or the type to flaunt his authority. He walked the campus quietly, never making a show of who he was or what he was part of. Yet, there was something about his presence, a calm confidence that made people pause and look twice. Some admired him, others were wary, unsure of what truly lay beneath his composed exterior. Many of his close friends described him as highly intelligent, respectful, and strategic, someone who thought deeply before acting. But there were others who told a more complex story. Whispers floated around campus that Kazeem, despite his gentle demeanor, was someone you didn't want to cross. Some said he had been involved in serious behind-the-scenes confrontations with rival groups on campus. Though these stories were never confirmed with solid evidence, the rumors were strong enough to give him an aura of mystery, part fear, part respect. In the eyes of some students, Kazeem was a protector. To others, he was someone not to be underestimated. While he never publicly threatened anyone or showed signs of aggression, certain individuals believed that his calmness was part of what made him unpredictable. It was often said that the quiet ones are the ones you should watch closely, and many felt that this saying applied perfectly to Kazeem Rescue Oloto. Still, the truth about him remained mixed and unclear. Was he just a focused young man trying to navigate his academic life like everyone else? Or was there a deeper, more calculated side that only a few ever got to see? Whatever the case, one thing was certain: Kazeem left a lasting impression on Federal Polytechnic Offa, one that sparked conversation, curiosity, and caution in equal measure. The year was 2016, and a cloud of tension quietly settled over the Federal Polytechnic Offa as preparations began for the much-anticipated Student Union Government (SUG) election. On the surface, it looked like just another regular campus election, with colorful posters, loud campaign chants, and students rallying around their preferred candidates. But behind the scenes, something far more complex, and potentially dangerous, was brewing. According to several reports and personal accounts, SUG elections at the institution had rarely been calm affairs in the past. Many described the election season as a period filled with unrest and fierce competition, where it was not unusual for large sums of money to exchange hands. Students whispered about how candidates and their supporters sometimes spent heavily, not just on posters and refreshments, but allegedly on more strategic means of gaining the upper hand. Some sources even claimed that in previous elections, certain individuals went as far as aligning themselves with groups known for their strength and influence on campus, all in a bid to silence opposition or intimidate rival candidates. While nothing was ever publicly proven or confirmed by school authorities, these rumors had lingered in the background for years, casting a long shadow over every election season. The 2016 SUG election, however, turned out to be one of the most talked about and controversial elections the school had seen in a long while. What made this particular election different was the ongoing tension between two major student political movements on campus, the Liberation Movement and the Reformation Movement. For 4 consecutive years, the Liberation Movement had held sway over student politics in the Polytechnic. They had successfully placed their candidates in powerful student leadership positions year after year, gradually building a strong base and reputation. But everything changed with the emergence of a student leader known simply as Success. Success, who had won the presidency under the Reformation banner, came into power with a different approach and ideology. He was determined to break the stronghold of the liberation movement. His leadership style was bold, and his actions were swift. By the end of his tenure, it was alleged that he had completely dismantled the influence of the liberation group within the student union. But this move didn't go unchallenged. Many students, particularly those who had long supported the liberation movement, saw this as an attack on their collective voice. And so, when the 2016 election approached, there was a massive pushback. Students, many of whom believed the liberation movement had been unfairly pushed aside, came out in large numbers to support their candidates. The results were overwhelming. The liberation movement swept through the elections, reclaiming all major positions within the SUG. Celebrations broke out across campus. Supporters danced, cheered, and declared it a victory for student power. For a brief moment, it felt like a new era had begun, one where students had taken back control of their union. The mood was electric. Joy and relief filled the air. But underneath the cheers and celebrations, something far more serious was taking shape. Unbeknownst to many, the victory at the polls had sparked a silent tension that was growing by the day. Certain individuals, who felt wronged or defeated by the election results, were said to be nursing deep grudges. And those grudges, according to some later reports, would soon give rise to a violent clash that had far-reaching consequences. It was said that the upcoming conflict wasn't just about politics. It was rooted in personal pride, group loyalty, and years of unresolved rivalries. Some sources even linked the brewing unrest to individuals with strong ties to influential student groups that, over the years, had become deeply woven into the school's underground social fabric. While most students carried on with their normal routines, excited about the new student leadership, they had no idea that a storm was quietly gathering. A confrontation, fueled by revenge, loyalty, and long-standing tension, was looming just around the corner. And when it finally broke out, it would leave a mark on Federal Polytechnic Offa that students and staff would remember for years. Not long after the heated student union government, SUG, election at Federal Polytechnic Offa, events took a dark and unexpected turn. The campus, which had been filled with celebration and political energy just hours earlier, suddenly fell into silence and confusion. In the deep hours of the night following the election, something alarming occurred, something that would shake the entire school community and leave a mark that wouldn't be forgotten. According to several unofficial sources, a group of individuals suspected to be affiliated with a feared confraternity, commonly referred to by some students as the Black Axe, allegedly invaded the campus area. Their mission, it seemed, was targeted and deliberate. In a shocking and unexpected move, they reportedly kidnapped Kazeem Oloto, the same student who was widely known by the nickname Rescue. Kazeem was not just any student, he was believed to be the head of the Buccaneers Confraternity on campus, a position that carried influence and leadership responsibilities within his circle. Alongside Kazeem, another student, whose identity was not confirmed at the time, was also taken. Witnesses described the incident as sudden and terrifying, but many were too afraid to speak publicly. The news spread quickly the next morning, whispers in the hostels, tense conversations in lecture halls, and students staring blankly into their phones, reading online posts about what had happened. The question on everyone's lips was simple: why? The exact motive behind the act remained unclear. There were different theories floating around. Some believed that the incident was directly linked to the recently concluded SUG election. After all, the election had been intense, with reports of behind-the-scenes power plays and deep-seated rivalry between student factions. Others believed Kazeem may have become a target not because of his own actions, but due to something, or someone, he was associated with. Perhaps he had been caught in the crossfire of a deeper, more personal vendetta. But no one could say for sure. Then came the most devastating part of the story. News broke that Kazeem's lifeless body had been found along a quiet, overgrown pathway just outside the school's perimeter. The location was described as bushy and isolated, the kind of place people rarely pass through at night. For many, the discovery confirmed their worst fears. Shock turned to sorrow, and sorrow quickly gave way to anger and confusion. In the aftermath, the school authorities released an official statement addressing the incident. They confirmed the tragic loss of Kazeem Oloto and expressed their condolences to his family and friends. However, the statement also carried a firm stance. According to the school, Kazeem's death had no connection whatsoever to the just concluded student union elections. The institution described the election process as peaceful, well-coordinated, and without any significant conflict. But among the student body, that version of events didn't sit well. Many students strongly disagreed with the official narrative. They believed that Kazeem's untimely end was not a random act of violence. They were convinced it was linked, directly or indirectly, to the political events that had unfolded in the days leading up to the tragedy. In their view, the timing was too precise, the target too specific, and the silence too loud. In hushed conversations around campus, in group chats, and even in online forums, students debated and shared theories. Some pointed to long-standing rivalries between groups that often became more intense during elections. Others recalled previous incidents where tensions had quietly escalated after changes in student leadership. The atmosphere on campus turned cold and uneasy. The joy of the liberation movement's political comeback had been overshadowed by something darker, the loss of a student whose life ended too soon. Kazeem Oloto was gone, but his name lingered in the minds of many, not just because of the group he was associated with, but because of the questions his passing raised. Who really wanted him gone? Was he caught in a battle larger than himself? And would the truth ever fully come to light? Though the school continued with academic activities as scheduled, the entire student community knew things had changed. A tragic chapter had been written into the school's history, one that served as a painful reminder of how fast things could spiral out of control, even when everything looked peaceful on the outside. In the days that followed the tragic passing of Kazeem Oloto, the atmosphere at Federal Polytechnic Offa remained heavy with grief, uncertainty, and fear. Kazeem's name was still being whispered across campus, and students continued to speak in hushed tones about what had happened. But beyond the silence and unanswered questions, another conversation began to gain momentum, a discussion about the response, or lack thereof, from the group Kazeem was believed to have led on campus. Many expected the Buccaneers Confraternity, a student group with which Kazeem was strongly associated, to strike back. In the eyes of some, an act of retaliation would have been the natural next step. But instead, what followed was nothing. At least, not in the way people anticipated. Days passed. Then weeks. And still, there was no confirmed confrontation, no visible response. This silence did not go unnoticed. The Buccaneers, once feared for their influence, began to face criticism from certain corners of the student community and beyond. Some accused them of being too passive, of failing to defend the memory of their fallen leader. Social media, online forums, and student gossip circles were filled with debates. Some viewed their inaction as a sign of weakness. Others believed it was a calculated decision, one that took maturity and wisdom to make. There were scattered, unconfirmed reports that the Buccaneers had allegedly taken down 2 individuals believed to be members of the rival group suspected to have been involved in Kazeem's death. But these reports were never verified. No solid evidence came forward. No names were released. And several sources outright dismissed the story as nothing more than hearsay, rumors meant to stir up tension. Eventually, clearer information began to emerge, mostly through students who claimed to have connections to the inner workings of the group. According to these sources, the state leadership of the Buccaneers, meaning senior figures beyond the student level, had issued a direct order to members within the school. They were told, in no uncertain terms, not to retaliate. This decision, it was said, wasn't made out of fear. It was made out of foresight. The leadership reportedly understood what many others didn't, that a full-blown confrontation between rival groups on campus could lead to massive chaos and irreversible damage. With dozens of students believed to be affiliated with both sides, any escalation could have easily turned into something far more dangerous, not just for the members involved, but for innocent students caught in the crossfire, as well as the reputation of the institution itself. The Buccaneers' choice to prioritize peace over vengeance surprised many. It was a decision that, while criticized at first, later earned respect from those who understood the weight of leadership and the cost of violence. Instead of allowing emotions to dictate their next steps, the group's leadership demonstrated control, restraint, and discipline. For a group often misunderstood from the outside, this was a defining moment, one that showed they were not driven solely by impulse or pride, but could also act with maturity when it mattered most. Many observers later described the move as a turning point. It proved that true strength does not always lie in retaliation, but in the ability to walk away from conflict when the consequences are too high. The decision helped maintain calm on campus and possibly prevented further bloodshed. In the end, the Buccaneers leadership sent a message louder than any act of revenge could have: peace is priceless. Choosing not to escalate the situation was a decision that helped keep more students safe and preserved whatever was left of the school's fragile calm. Let this serve as a reminder, not just to students of Federal Polytechnic Offa, but to young people across Nigeria, that there is no benefit in cultism. It leads only to pain, loss, and regret. We must continue to raise our voices, not in anger or violence, but in unity and wisdom. Say no to cultism. Choose peace. Choose life.